Yeah, the guy said I look like a pickle. I don't know if it's because I have a bald head or what, but I mean even like he made this picture of me. Kind of looks like Mr. Peanut, but it's Mr. Pickle. But one thing's right, I'm a big deal. Anyway, roll the intro. My name is Ian Eltron. I'm an alien from the planet Grencha. If you haven't watched my previous video, I urge you to do so. We talk about why I came to Earth, the person who sent me to Earth, the Grenchian who sent me to Earth. And today, we're going to get into who I said in the last video was the first person I met. That was wrong. It was the first friend I made. We're going to talk about David. So first off, before we get into all of that, we have to talk about my descent to Earth. So when I entered the atmosphere, the ship I was in disintegrated as it was designed to do, and I landed on a nearby mountain in West Virginia, which wasn't too far away from where I had to go pick up my car. I decided to land on a mountain so I wouldn't land in the middle of the road. People would be like, oh yeah, it's a dude just kind of fell from the sky. What happened was, as I plummeted towards Earth after the ship disintegrated, I just slowed my descent, landed on the mountain, safe as could be. And I was looking around, and everything was so similar, but yet so different to Grencha. The plant life, all the animals, all look similar, except for one thing: ducks. On Grencha, we have ducks. We don't call them ducks, but they are animals that look and act exactly like ducks, and they love bread. Alright, so just to kind of go through the basics, I bought a car from this redneck dude named Jeff that was drinking beer at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then I bought an apartment from an older lady who was way too nice, and one of those people that kind of seems to have like a smile glued to their face. The only thing that they really had in common were they both guessed that I wasn't from around here. They were like, you ain't from around here, are you, Ian? I'm like, no, I'm from Seattle. That was my go-to. When everybody thought I was different, I'd say, yeah, I'm from Seattle. Apparently Seattle's just a really weird place. I don't know. I've never been there. I'm sure it's lovely. So let's jump to the next day. So I'm going to work for the first time at a call center for a TV provider. I'm just not going to say which one, but let's just say a major one. So on that day, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I had to be at the call center by 7, but I only lived like 5 minutes away. So I ended up getting there around 6:45. I walked inside, talked to a few people to see where I was supposed to sit, and they pointed towards a man named Damien.
My name is Damien, and I was Ian's coach at the call center. Pretty much means I was like supervisor of a team consisting of about 15 customer service reps. When I met Ian, I could tell he was odd, but looking over the paperwork from Seattle, his stats were pretty good. I listened to several of his calls throughout the day, and he was very knowledgeable about the product, but lacked any sort of empathy. He sounded robotic. At the time, I just chalked it up to him being new to the call center and maybe just nervous.
So after I met Damien, I took a seat at my desk, and slowly other people from work started coming in. All of them seemed groggy, looked right past me, and then a guy came in who would end up being my best friend, David. Now, David was way more alert than everybody, gave the coach a high five, talking to everybody. Everybody else is kind of groggy, hey, and he's just alert, ready to go, full of energy. And he looked at me, and he said, you new? I was like, yeah, my name's Ian Eltron. I am a transfer from Seattle. He was like, why would you move here? This place sucks. I said it was lovely, and I was just trying to start over new. Now, along these lines, I said a few other things, like, it's a pleasure to meet you, and once again, like the other two people I met, he just gave me a really weird look. But he asked if I had any friends or family in the area, and I said no, it was just me. So, luckily, David decided to invite me out after work.
Hi, my name's David. I worked with Ian, a bit of a while ago, but when I met him, he was a bit of an odd one. Like, I'm not sure. I'm not one to talk because British accent and everything. Especially in West Virginia, you just don't get that many British people here. But yeah, so I knew what it was like being a new face in a new place. It does sound a bit like a song, doesn't it? Just a new face in a new place. Anyway, sorry about that. I figured the guy was pretty nervous, so to try and loosen him up, I invited him to Hooters after work.
I was glad that David invited me out after work. I was on my way to meeting my first objective of making a friend, and we were going to a place called Hooters, and, maybe I could find a date as well. Complete my second objective. Now, the first day at work was an extreme challenge. Talking to people in general was hard. Talking to people for 8 hours a day is even harder. They say the customer is always right, but they're normally wrong and rarely happy with what you have to tell them. After I got off work, we had a few hours before our meeting at Hooters, so I decided to go home and research the place a little bit, and apparently it's where scantily clad dressed women serve you food, normally wings. I mean, some people say they go there for the wings, but come on now, who are you trying to fool? One other thing I did is I realized I was having a hard time socializing. I think it was because of how I was talking, so I decided to try to incorporate more slang into my speech, so I did a little bit more research on slang. Apparently slang is different depending on where you are, but I tried my best. When I arrived at Hooters, I saw David, and I waved him down. I was like, "David, howdy, bro." Apparently those aren't two things you use in the same sentence very often, because he looked at me and it's like only you would say howdy and bro in the same sentence. So once we had a seat, a waitress came to get our drink orders. And he ordered a beer, I ordered a water. Now he asked what I thought of the waitress, and I was like, "She looks mad lovely." Trying to use slang and everything. And he was like, "Dude, you can just say it. She's hot." I was like, "She is indeed hot." I told him maybe I'd ask her on a date, and he just kind of laughed and said, "Yeah, right." I mean, in my mind, it was perfectly logical. If she's a female, I'm a male, I'd ask her out on a date. So David told me a little bit about his upbringing, how he moved here 7 years ago, and how different life is in West Virginia than the UK. Apparently a lot different. He also told me about Alex, who's his wife, how he met her shortly after moving here, and how they've been married for 5 years now. And I just lied about Seattle, just from things I had read about Seattle. But we were getting along pretty well. So at the end, when the waitress came to give us our check, I decided I'll just ask her out on a date. I said something along the lines of, "Hi, would you like to accompany me on a date? We could go to dinner and a movie. Where do you live? What time should I pick you up?"
I'm not gonna lie, it took me a while to comprehend what he said. I mean, first of all, you can't ask a waitress out on a date. It sort of goes against their company policy. And secondly, the phrasing was a bit creepy, to say the least. I mean, could have been worse, but she laughed very uncomfortably after that. And rightly so. I mean, what do you do in that situation? So, I had to step in and say he was from Seattle and that's how their humour is down there, but not sure how much of that she believed. She managed to laugh that off too. I don't know how she did that though. I really don't. It must have been almost traumatising, to be honest. But the whole night I was just unsure if Ian would ever loosen up and, release that inner fun guy. So I invited him to the bar with me and Alex on Friday. Maybe so we could meet a girl.
Okay, so looking back, yes, it was extremely creepy. Not only that I asked the waitress out, but just kind of the phrasing of everything. One of those, look back and cringe type moments. But, yeah, I had more research to do. I had a few more days at work to kind of get used to socializing, and hopefully going to the bar on Friday, I'd be a little bit better at everything, and maybe I could meet a woman to go on a date with. So in the next episode, we're going to talk to somebody that played a huge role in everything. We're going to talk about Regina.